This is the best part of my day.
Oh, wow. What's happened to you?
You. How you feeling?
If the doctor didn't tell me you have lung cancer and there's no cure for it, humanly speaking, I would say, hey, leave me alone. I'm having a great time. But you know, the Lord has been so good. And I'll give you a few lessons that I've picked up. One of
Please.
them is live one day at a time.
Got it.
The first thing that hit me was sadness. I thought, wow, I won't be able to call the boys and say, how you doing, guys? You know, I called my wife and hear her voice. It was sadness, but not panic. Then you begin to think, oh, wow, if I'm going to die between now and next Christmas, have I got all my accounts clear? Have I asked forgiveness from everybody I should? Is there anything I need to confess, clear up? And I had a bit of a temper, which my wife reminded me I still have. So I asked, hey, Jim, forgive me. Dave, forgive me. If you didn't, I don't remember any bad stuff. Well, forgive me anyway. It makes me feel better. And you begin to think deep thoughts. Wow, I believe in heaven, and my dad is there. I understand it. I believe it. I'm going to see the Lord.
I remember the day I called you right after we heard the news.
Yes, you
and
did.
the first thing you said to me was, hey, man, I've had 83 great years.
Exactly.
I'm going to celebrate that.
Amen, amen. And you know, these last 3 months now, joy, pick every day, get up and say, I'm alive. My wife is here. The boys are still around. Hey, just live like this is the most victorious day. It should have been that way all our life, you know. The Lord's been good to me, giving me at least 3 months already. And you read so many stories. A kid goes skiing and dies. Dad goes to work and a truck runs over him. Those are shocking. So a guy who gets run over suddenly didn't have a chance to think it through. So to me, it's a mercy from the Lord.
You're one of the few people, when I first met you, that instantly struck me as you walk your faith. You believe it, top to bottom.
Yeah.
Where did that start? How did that come about in you?
Yeah. You know, I've thought about this lately. I was in boarding school. My grandma said, get home quickly, your daddy's sick. When I got there, he just died. I got there and he was in his bed at home, and he had sang a song, clapped his hands. His head fell on the pillow from exhaustion, pointed up to heaven and quoted Philippians 1, I'm going to be with Jesus, which is better by far. And when my mom became a widow, we lost everything because special people took advantage of my mom's ignorance of business, and everything my dad had was gone. We moved to another city. We would get on our knees and thank God for a cup of coffee. Sometimes we had only one loaf of French bread, chop it up in 7 bits for the whole family. Sometimes we get a steak, and we chop it up in 7 bits. And my mom saw the Lord everywhere. She sang day and night. She was washing clothes, singing hymns. Once when I was working at a British bank, and she said to me one day, well, why don't you leave the bank and go to that town in the hills of Argentina? There's no Bible church. And I said, Mom, I'm waiting for the call. And she got angry, and she never got angry. But she said, the call, she said, the call went out 2,000 years ago. The Lord's waiting for the answer. Forget the call. That did it.
Yeah.
Within months, I was out of the bank, you know,
yeah.
and the Lord worked it out. But the Lord answered her prayers. And for instance, people who cheated us, I remember one day we owed 8 months of rent. The owner of the house we lived in was not a believer, but he didn't throw us out. You know, in those days, they'd throw you out on the street, and the shame of it, and where are we going? And one day when we were at the end of 8 months of no paying, we prayed and a check came in the mail. A guy wrote and said, Mrs. Palau, I lied to you and I cheated you when your husband died. I said that the tractor that I took from you was broken and didn't work. It was in perfect condition. I used it. I made lots of money. But my conscience won't let me cheat you anymore. Here's a check for what it was worth and plus interest of these years that and it paid all. So the Lord sent good people along. Martin Luther said a very insightful thing that was told me when Pat came down with her cancer. Faith does not ask why, but what. What shall I do about my cancer? What is it you want to do through me that you put me through this? Rather than why? Why, we'll find out in heaven for sure. But we walk by faith, not by sight. And you'd really trust the sovereignty of God, the goodness of God, the love of God. You trust God's fatherhood. He's my father. He loves me. He makes no mistakes.
Amen.
Yeah, that's the big one.
The other thing that pops into my mind when you say something like that is young people today.
Yeah.
It seems kind of elusive at this point. I mean, the traditional way of reaching people doesn't seem to have the effect that it used to. What's your wisdom and your advice to somebody like me who is in that business, and we want to reach everybody with the gospel?
I personally think that old timers make the mistake. Not that you're an old timer,
I am. Gray hair.
You too. Is to always think that somehow the old way was the best way.
Right.
And it was the best way maybe for that generation.
Right.
But this young generation who loves Jesus Christ, and there are millions of them, they know how to communicate in the language of this generation. So listen to them and learn from them. I'm trying to learn from the younger pastors and the younger committed Christians, like some of my relatives, how they communicate with their generation. And I try not to meddle, not to try and correct them. Basics, yes, Bible, prayer, the Lord, that doesn't change. But how you do it and how you word it and how you dress, you got to learn from the guys who love the Lord just as much as you do, but apply it to this generation. What liberates people is truth. If you can get their attention and you can plant truth in their life, you shall know the truth shall set you free, whether you're young or old. So you get their attention, you do it by music. We also switched to music big time in about 1989 when we started festivals. Go to the young people, no jacket, no tie, jeans, pretend to be young, and get them out there. And it brought in thousands upon thousands. Now I think we're having to adapt again. I know the internet is good, but it's not enough because people need to be together, and people like to be together.
Communal. God made us communal.
Yeah, well, U2 comes to town and people go to the stadium and pay $700 just to get in.
Yeah.
So they want to be with people.
Yeah.
So the church has to lead the way, but do it the young people's way.
That just because we've done something this way doesn't mean we should continue doing it.
That's right. It was good in its day,
Yeah.
but now what's new today? I'm trying to figure that out myself.
I'm praying for you.
Amen.
Our staff is praying for you, and our listeners are going to pray for you.
How many years, huh?
Lot.
Lots of years.
A lot.
Been a good time.
We both had brown hair.
Yeah. We were young. I love K-Love. I really do.
God
and
bless
I thank
you.
God for you guys.
Thank you.
Yep.